You saw that right. That's Ronnie, painted by cave people. After dissing you, she played God in a Prince of Persia game that was made 20 years ago. So that's the topic for today. Let's analyze why did she went for the head and killed Thanos, and why do people like her. While we wait for the British to transport the paintings, let's get real. We are talking about the Prince of Persia game and what goddess is behind it, but let's be honest, if I just started the video like that, even my mom wouldn't watch it. Back to the paintings, cause for some players these are still a secret even after 20 years. Few players were fortunate enough to find them, but not me. I used the ancient technique of being bad at video games. Yeah, I mean, this is a Ubisoft game. It wasn't me. I'm a pro. I'm a pro. Trust me. Now wait a minute, that's not Ronnie, that's some Indian goddess whose name we got to look up in Wikipedia. What, you think this is easy? Do you know how many blue-colored gods are there with multiple arms and legs? There's a lot of them. Every god has more limbs at one point. Anyway, this is Kali. I found her pretty easily. The head of the demon gave it away. Oh, about the painting's location? They are found pretty early in the game, in the Maharaja's palace. You know, the one you have looted, king. Now, Kali is not the only one that appears in this room. We can see how the sands of time were created and how she comes to control it. But the game is old and analyzing everything will give me a headache, so we're only going for the last painting. But before that, this game is older than YouTube. So do you even know what this game is all about? You do, really? Okay, I believe you. So quiz time. Who's the protagonist of Prince of Persia games? Oh, you said the prince.
That's the most outstanding answer I've ever heard. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160.
Anyway, I set the bar too low and I'm still doubting you, so last question. Where does the game take place? Oh man, I read your mind, you thought of Persia. Sorry, it's not that, so it's story time now. Let's jump into it, instantly.
It's like water under the bridge.
The important thing to note is that Saruman and the Vizier were the ones truly behind the attack. The Vizier betrayed the Maharaja and that's why you came with a small number of men to loot it. You are a prince though, and at that age, it's embarrassing that your first battle is in your 20s. Other kids were kings at 8, then died in battle at 12. Though you're fighting for the first time, your father calls the shots, so you're there only for the all-you-can-eat buffet. Also, let's not forget that your father lets you run wherever you want, like this is a Walmart instead of a bloody battlefield.
Oh my god, he just ran in. Let's go! Stick to the plan! Let's go! Let's go!
Now your sweet, sweet ice cream in the desert is the dagger. A good reason to make your way through soldiers in order to get it. It was also shiny, and because you're not a gym bro, it's the only thing you could carry. This thing is made of gold, so it's quite heavy.
But to move it would take a dozen of my father's soldiers. I wanted a prize I could fit into one hand.
While you parkour through the castle to steal the dagger, Saruman and his men manage to enter the palace and they loot the family-packed ice cream. You know, the item that makes every family gathering fun. What could go wrong though? Besides this, and also this. Lastly this. But beside this, nothing. Smooth sailing. Everyone is happy in the end but the Vizier, cause he needs the dagger and the hourglass to gain immortality. But now both are going to Azad with other loot and slaves.
Your Majesty, you promised me my choice of the Maharaja's treasures. That dagger.
Surely you won't deny the lad a souvenir of his first battle. You may have your choice of all the Maharaja's other treasures. Except that hourglass. That will make a fine gift for the Sultan of Azad when we pass through his city.
The party arrives to Azad, where the sands of time are showed as a gift for that king. I mean, when I visit someone, I bring some cheap wine, but yeah, a golden 3-meter tall hourglass that rivals an Eastern European country's yearly GDP is not bad too. Chocolate is fine, but this is also okay. Anyway, when everyone is gathered in one room, the Vizier just asks the prince nicely.
Perhaps he will oblige.
And he opened the hourglass. You see what asking nicely does to you? You get what you want, even if you're the bad guy. I mean, kinda.
Would you kindly?
Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Now would you kindly subscribe to the channel? The point is that the people are now dead, but the prince still won't give the dagger away. Also, it's quite funny how the vizier asked for the dagger. That no is comical. And now that I remember, this guy jumps to the point every time.
Give me the dagger, and I will give you power. Eternal life will be yours.
He doesn't ask how is the prince after committing patricide.
I saw my father turn to sand.
He doesn't even talk about the weather. Because of this, I horribly call him "Give me the dagger guy." He says this every time you meet him.
Give me the dagger.
Back to the story. You already knew that the water is abundant in this game and the prince can't help but drink from everywhere. But how can we have a beach episode in this anime without sand? And here comes Kali by turning everyone into sand. Oh, you meant sand for the people instead of sand people. Well, shit happens. I have an idea for a banger video. Let's give a knife, a stick, and a medallion to 3 participants. Who survives the most in a monster-infected palace wins 10 millions. Also get to keep their life. Yeah, you're out. You're out too. The prince got the Tesla. That's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. All in all, after opening the hourglass, the whole game revolves around you finding the sands and restore the time with the help of Farah. Now I yapped enough about the story and the plot, but at least now you can write that off of your bucket list.
おめでとう。
おめでとう。
おめでとうね。
おめっとさん。
You remember Kali? Yeah, we can talk about her now. So let's see who she is and what's her favorite hobby and food. In short, it's wars and demon blood. Note that Hindus love the reincarnations and whatnots. I'm telling you because I'm not keeping track of those. It's too much, and it's also boring. But we are going for the most important infos though. For example, she's the consort of Shiva, and you probably don't know what that means, so let's just call them husband and wife. Kali is worshipped as the source of all changes. She can cure people from life and reincarnations. And her ultimate is a wisdom slap that can either make you smart or dead. Power, creation, time, destruction, and death are the things that can be associated with her. She's also worshipped as a divine mother, so she likes her kids very much, but not that much to stop this attack from happening. Wait, she did just that in the end, as she portrayed everything as a oh, whoopsie, the line was bad. Let's not spoil too much now. There are subtle hints that hint to her involvement, like the ability to see in the future or the ability to slow and reverse time. You can do that because you have her toothpick. Also, this Walmart of a castle is magical. That's why time moves differently too. In one instance, after you found the health upgrade, you wake up questioning Farah about how much time has passed. But she then tells you that you barely went absent.
Gone? What are you talking about?
Never mind.
Now let's talk about her appearance. She can be portrayed naked or she can be depicted wearing a tiger skin along with human arms and human heads. And no, even with all those bones around her, she's not a water hack from The Witcher 3. She's beautiful, a 10 out of 10. At least that's what the legends say. Her skin color is either black or blue, but she's a god, so the concept of color and their meaning don't really apply to her. Also, she doesn't fit in the category of good or evil. She's beyond good and evil. Okay, sorry, here's an explosion. In popular arts, she will be portrayed having a long tongue, 4 arms where some are holding a weapon, usually a sword or a sickle, and a trident. In one hand, she is found holding the remnants of a husband who didn't take the meat out of the freezer. She has red eyes, meaning she won't let that slide. It's one of those days now. Also, she's a Disney princess, as she is surrounded with other animals such as snakes or jackals. The friendliest animals in existence. And no, the jackal doesn't mean she will skin you alive for the silliest mistakes. At least I'm sure it doesn't mean just that. The main difference in the painting is that with two hands she is holding the sands of time. Now let's put on our thinking cap to see why. The point here appears to be on time itself, and they found three things that can be associated with it. The first is Kali, and the cool thing is that her name means time and darkness. With this in mind, she can be easily associated with the universe, the background of the painting, because it's empty and dark, while stars occupy a small portion of it. Time and space are also closely related to each other, but I'm not elaborating on that. Just know when we think of space, we think of time and change too. Thirdly, the hourglass was an ancient timekeeping device, so it easily symbolizes French fries. I mean, time and its passing. Sorry, I'm hungry. So you get the concept. The painting really wants us to think of time, and with that, I'm putting down my teacher's cap. Now let's have a quick TED talk about symbolism. Holding the sands of time that high as a god has meaning too. It shows her control over it and over time. The sands could be made by her, but even if it wasn't and it was a byproduct of war and blood spill, holding it still symbolizes that it's hers now. To put it simply, she was the first to saw a deal on Amazon with free shipping, and now she has it. Also, the sands of time appearing in this game while the goddess not simply means that the artifact represents her presence. It's a symbol that she has this place and its people under her protection. Moreover, the sands are a warning for those foolish enough to attack her palace. That's you, the player. You're the dumb one who Leroyed his Jenkins in her castle and got his ass whooped.
I saw my father turn to sand.
Yeah, I saw my father die. Well, don't touch the toy figurine then, cause they are expensive. Anyhow, that is the reason why we see people worshipping her. They worship her not only because she's the goddess of time, but also because they see she's there to protect them. Now let's look at how she does that via the sands of time. We can notice that the people in the painting are found to have the same color as the aura of the sands of time and sand in particular. This could also mean that the transformed victims, whether they want it or not, must worship Kali. So worshipping Kali is not necessarily because they love her. You can do that unwillingly too. I have one last thing regarding the colors used here. Everything that is yellow doesn't necessarily need to symbolize sand and therefore time or danger. Because of gold, yellow could symbolize wealth and abundance too. In this case, the wind that emanates from Kali could also show what kind of help does the goddess offer and what makes her worthy of being worshipped. The sands are made from gold, also ornaments on hands and feet, and part of the dress could also be made from gold. This would show that as a sky mummy, she only wants the best for her people, meaning prosperity and abundance, along with protection. So the painting both symbolizes the outcome of her presence for her allies as well as for her enemies. Moving forward, in the painting we can see that she is holding a severed head and a sword. In this case, the head here represents the human ego while the sword the divine knowledge. The takeaway is that the ego must be killed by the sword to gain divine knowledge and liberation from the cycle of life and death. With this in mind, the story of the prince is cyclical. I think Kali did just the right things to let the prince escape this cycle of reversing time and attacking the palace. As for what things she did, you'll know by the end of the video. We almost came to the end of analyzing Kali's painting. Lastly, I'm going for the eyes, the long tongue, and why is Thanos here? Luckily, I can explain these in some detail simply by mentioning her origins. According to the legends, she was born from the forehead of another goddess. You heard that right. Gods popping out of body parts was the jam back in the days. Imagine two people from different religions talking. Yo, dude, my god was born from the third eye of the sun god, and mine was born from the middle finger of the sea god. Anyway, just don't ask the Greeks where Eric came from. Back to Kali. In short, she popped off of Durga, a goddess who is associated with protection, motherhood, and wars. She's often found defeating demons. There was one particular one named Raktabia. Sorry if I butchered the name, but I'm not Indian. Anyway, Raktabia was next on the list, but when Durga and the other goddesses cut the demon from its blood, another one came to live. When Kali emerged from her forehead, she managed to defeat the demon by cutting its head and drinking its blood so it cannot make other clones. Now hearing this, you know that Kali is a powerful goddess, and the red eyes can mean that she personifies Durga's anger. In the paintings though, her eyes are black, meaning she's having a spa day. Also, her feet are in a weird position. That's because after consuming a lot of demons, she became angry and hungry. Remember Shiva, the husband? His plan was to lay on the ground and wait for her wife to step on him instead of making her some french fries. Guys, this is not some BDSM or foot fetish type of thing. Stepping on Shiva calmed Kali, and her long tongue means just that she came to realize the damage she's done. Now let's take all these things I just said and make a short conclusion. What has been said shows that her hobbies include wars, and her favorite drink is probably the Bloody Mary. When she's not destroying the entire world, she's fun throwing sandals at her children to make them wiser. Sometimes that kills them, but at least they escape reincarnation. Also, being as old as time itself means that she's bored. You know that the castle is magical, and she put these paintings in a place where you would look for a second but forget in an instant. You made her day when you missed it while wishing for that 5-star gacha weapon. That's it for Carly's character. Now let's analyze if she makes any moves in the game. How does she handles the attack on the palace? What does she do? Her nails. She's doing her nails because it's Sunday. She simply lets her enemies do what they want until unleashing the sands of time, and even after that. She saw that the prince was happy by looting the dagger and getting XP from the battle, so she immediately put a stop to that bullshit by German suplexing him into fighting his father and man. Kidding, that was the hourglass. He thought it's a wishing lamp instead of a weapon of mass destruction. Kali likes the prince, so let's look at some similarities between the two. The first one is bravery. The inexperienced prince rushes in to gain glory. In the aforementioned legend, Kali was just born, so to say, but even so, she rushed in to kill demons. So there's one similarity between the two. Secondly, the prince stands his ground pretty good against the enemy soldiers, so being resilient also qualifies him to be her champion. Thirdly, the prince is pure at heart. He doesn't fight to kill as many as possible. He fights to gain glory and to be praised by his father. So Kali could be interested in the prince as she's looking for a man in finance, 6'5" and blue eyes. One last reason is him being of royal lineage. Kings were the favorite toys of gods and were seen as instruments of their will. After unleashing the sands, the prince now faces immortal enemies, and this could also be associated with Kali battling the legendary demon. The difference is that you're fighting your loved ones, your father and man. Yeah, there's definitely a woman behind this. Now why choose a champion at all? Let's say that in the legends the goddess fought against unkillable demons, so worthy opponents. This little war thingy means little to her. It's easily changeable. She was mostly bored than angry. So what's the bread and butter of a bored goddess? It's tormenting the living. At one point you steal some women and in hourglass with the boys, and now you have to kill your father and man. Completely understandable change of events. But why would she be angry? Aside from getting her people relocated and enslaved, there is also one particular way to upset a god. In the ancient times it is said that while people waged wars on the land, gods waged wars against each other in the skies. So in a sense, her people being defeated and the sands of time being taken could mean that the guardian goddess wasn't capable to defend her people against other deities and their followers. On the other hand, the sands of time is an artifact that is directly associated with the goddess. Back then, this wasn't so uncommon at all. The oldest tree could signify the goddess of prosperity, or one statue, the supreme god. Destroying those or relocating them will draw the anger of those gods and their followers as well. What does the angered Kali do besides using the prince to reverse time? To answer that, let's mention where does Kali intervenes directly and when she just let things happen. Here it's important to know if she acts through the artifacts, or they are just simply objects with powers that can be activated by anyone. Let's start with the Sands of Time. This big boy is magical in nature because the sands were gathered from the corpse of an evil gene. So the artifact has power, but what about free will? In the game they appear to be just tools. This is also the case with the scepter and the dagger. Both are held by the enemy yet they live. They also offer help instead of harming the user. Now the beam coming down from the sky could also mean that this was the power of the artifact alone. This doesn't mean that Kali can't enhance it or stop it. I'm saying that both are a possibility here. What I'm really looking for are signs of intelligence and reason that indicate someone's will, because if there's a will behind an action, there's a god as well. This is where things get interesting. There are certain spaces in the game where sands gather, and when the prince steps in one of those, he sees glimpses of the future. Are they true though? Well, yes, but there is something strange with one of those. Now, their appearance could be associated directly with either the goddess or the artifact. With the artifact in a sense that it was created from the essence of an evil being, so it could also have a will on its own, an evil one at that. And because the sand's curse, so to say, spreads through the castle, this could explain why the sands suddenly gather in key places. This could be a possibility, but the sands ultimately belong to the goddess now, and someone else's evil will is not needed. Also, this will be a problem for her people too. Let's say that praying in front of the artifact could also mean that they are praying to the demon instead of her, and gods don't like that. The sands maybe had free will at some time, but that stopped the moment Kali got it. So I think the goddess was behind the visions and she gave them away directly. But why? For starters, simply to help the prince navigate through the demon-infested palace.
Help me find the hourglass.
It is in the Sultan's treasure vault, atop the Tower of Dawn.
How do you know that?
I just know.
Him seeing what lays ahead could help him get prepared. This is also the case with the castle being magical. What did the prince get out from it? Well, drinking from the magical water made him stronger, so these health upgrades are another thing that aided him in his battle. The prince being held by the visions and the magical waters are another reason to exclude the free will of the hourglass, because the demon who killed his father wouldn't help the prince. She helps you, but that doesn't mean that you are buddies. You are only there to clean things up and by the end come to the conclusion that attacking the palace was a big whoopsie.
On our way to Azad with a small company of men, we passed through India, where the promise of honor and glory tempted my father into a grievous error.
Her people are more important. Sadly, everyone but Farah is turned into monsters. That being the case, Kali saw that the prince and the princess got close to each other, so she used this to further help her people. Although the princess tried to get back the dagger from the prince at the beginning, they fell in love after a while. This can be seen in a lot of cutscenes.
My love. Please don't leave me.
What did you call me?
It doesn't matter.
She said my love. I know she did. I didn't dream it. At least, I think I didn't. It's quite natural, really. Her kingdom's conquered, she has nothing, no one to protect her. She needs me. I can see it in the way she looks at me. All I'd have to do is reach out and take her hand, and she'd be mine. Why am I talking to myself?
The thing that disturbed the connection between them were the visions in the sands. All of them were true to make the prince believe in them and to aid him. This one, where he sees Farah betray him, may not be true though from the start and was altered by Kali. Farah only stole the dagger because the prince believed in the visions and adopted her.
My father's army sacked your palace, captured you as a slave.
What?
You have every reason to hate me.
What are you talking about?
Now you want me to trust you.
Go on. There's no time.
If the visions wouldn't occur, then the prince would believe Farah and proceed to restore time without any problems. I have reasons to believe this is the case because if Kali wouldn't interfere directly, then the story would end here, but not in a way that would be beneficial to her subjects. The prince hesitating here leaves enough time for the vizier to attack, so the story continues with the prince and the princess falling in a dark place. Here, Farah is also hurt by the fact that the prince didn't trust her.
Why did I trust you? Why didn't you trust me?
Now, because Kali altered the vision and the prince showed Farah that he didn't believe in her, she now really betrays him and takes the dagger but leaves the medallion so he can survive. Kali changed the vision because she didn't like the outcome, so let's imagine a story that she wouldn't like. For this, the prince needs to trust Farah to not hesitate while he's on top of the hourglass. Let's remember the main reason though for restoring time. It's to save his father and man. This leaves Farah out though. With memories intact, this doesn't mean that he doesn't love her, but he now has another opportunity at doing things. So for his story to end really well, all he needs to do is storm the palace again, take the loot and the princess, but kill the vizier and stop him from using the sands of time. All I am saying is that the prince wouldn't stop attacking the palace and looting the place. As for Farah, he will simply take her away as a slave. Now this outcome is good for the prince as he gets richer, gets experience in battles and gets the princess and slaves too. This outcome is however bad for Kali because even if the vizier is defeated, her servants are made slaves and the riches are taken away. So this is why she changes the vision. Now let's take in consideration how the altered vision made the story better for Kali. We are going to take a look at 3 scenes. These are important because they happen after the prince hesitates to turn back time. The first one is the love scene. The prince and the princess appear to be trapped, so the princess narrates a story that calmed her as a child. The princess only uses a bow, so she doesn't know how to use magic, so Kali also played a role here. The created space is magical, and while you are trying to find the princess, you need to enter through the correct doors. So you're constantly reminded that the correct door is the one that leads to the princess. After the love scene comes her death. The prince needs to save his father and people, but loving Farah and seeing her die after adds one more reason to the list. Her death reminds him that he's alone and he's responsible for everything. Also, his guilt was the reason he didn't even consider the vizier's offer.
Live forever, and those I loved are dead and I to blame. I choose death.
He manages to reverse time and the prince has ample opportunities on how to handle things again, but he still decides to find the princess. He does this out of love and because he saw her die. For the prince, everything that has happened was real and he remembers everything vividly. So he simply wants to check on the princess and feel relieved that she is alive. After he finds her, he tells her his story, and this brings us to the third scene, the fight with the vizier. Kali doesn't get involved directly now. The prince was aided enough and now it's his wish to defeat the vizier. The vizier also threatens to kill the princess and blame it on the prince, so he can't let that go.
And so it ends. How will the Maharaja feel when he finds his only daughter slain by the son of his enemy? Do you have any last words you wish me to communicate to the princess before I kill her? Words of love, perhaps?
Now let's wrap the story up. With the vizier gone, the prince gives back the dagger to Farah. As he leaned for a kiss, he realized that the hardship he faced and the love he found disappeared like sand in the desert.
Such a fantastic story. Do you think me a child, that I would believe such nonsense?
You're right. It was just a story.
The attack also can take place now, because in the beginning we know that the attack was possible with the help of the vizier. For this reason, the Persians came with a small number of men to not be noticed and to attack swiftly where it was efficient. Without the vizier's help, the palace wouldn't be an easy prey and would require more manpower and more planning. This outcome was the best for Kali's followers. The attack and the looting didn't took place, while the one who started it all gets punished. The prince lives with his memories intact so he could remember the consequences of attacking the palace. Also, he now can be relieved that his man and father are alive. Although he probably got mentally scarred from the things that happened, this is still the best outcome when you mess with a god, especially with one that was born fighting. In the end, you could say that nothing happened, and Kali saved her people without them noticing anything. For me, this is the story of how Kali saved her followers and did things in the game. Remember that this is not a mandate from heaven, and it's not scripture but my opinion. This whole video was made because I played the game for the first time and I liked it. Now excuse me while I scratch my arse by sliding down on this tree. Those french fries won't prepare themselves.